What's up everybody, it's Davo here, and in my last video I showed you how to take out a dropship. In this video I'm going to show you a game-breaking bug that causes the dropship to pick up the sentry and fly back into the sky. And we are going to cover some of the things that happen when you do encounter a dropship so that your base doesn't go from looking like this to this. And as always, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and leave me a comment. I love to respond. Now, if you're trying to have base encounters, you want to make sure that you enable the dropship encounter options, especially this one right here. As I mentioned in my last video, you're never really going to know where the sentry is going to drop as it's really quiet. When you do encounter the dropship, it's likely going to be a huge surprise, and you're not going to know where that sentry fell at. During my initial test, I got beat up right away and had to heal immediately. When I got back on my feet, I wanted to take a look at what damage was being caused, and I wanted to know who was causing it. My initial reaction was that the dropship was always going to attack the base, and the sentries were there to attack the player. And within the first minute, we were already losing essential parts of our base. I wanted to remain cautious and get a good look at the dropship because I wasn't really sure what it was shooting at. But upon further inspection, I can see it was not shooting at my base. Running around a little bit more, I did eventually spot the sentry, but it didn't look like it was too worried about what I was doing. And the sentry was indeed shooting at the building. At this point in time, it looked like the dropship was aiming its guns towards my flag. So I wanted to go in and get a better look at what was going on. When I did get closer, I noticed that for some reason, the dropship was shooting at my crates. When I first laid down the flag, the first thing I built were 3 crates just to kind of hold the things that were on me. So I thought this was very strange. I'm not even sure if the crates have hit points, let alone can one of the dropships destroy them. So after running around a little bit, I did notice that I could actually persuade the sentry stop shooting at the base and actually start shooting at myself instead. And at this time I caused the dropship to focus its attention on me, and I took a pretty nasty beating from it. I did eventually recover, and it looks like the dropship went back to shooting my crates. Kind of a letdown because I thought this thing would be doing more damage to the base as well. But I think it got bugged out and focused too much on my crates. Despite my best efforts of taking the sentry's attention, it was still knocking down major parts of my base. Couldn't imagine being a new player or someone that doesn't have the means to take out a sentry and having to deal with this, especially really early on in the game. So I eventually died, but was lucky enough to have enough of my base left so that I can spawn at the shelter. One of the platforms that was holding my vehicle seemed to have broken in the process, but I was still able to access my motorcycle. And I'm really not sure if the sentry gun's trying to shoot at me or if it's still just running its mission of shooting at the base. I'm starting to think that when they spawn, they have a set focal point and they continue to attack that area until the end. Even after I died, it looks like the dropship was still focused on destroying those crates, so I'm pretty much counting this thing out and considering it broken. But I did want to confirm this one last time. It seems like anytime I got inside of the dropship's point of view, it would finally break its focus on the crates and try to come after me. If I wasn't a target, it was just going to return to the crates. And for whatever reason, I thought I was going to come here and retrieve my gear. And at least I searched my body to get it back, so I can eventually come back to this later. For now, we're just going to spawn back at the base. And I remembered I had a crate full of rocket launchers pre-equipped with rockets just for a situation like this. New players aren't going to be as fortunate, but you can destroy these things, which I have a video and I'll put the link up above and in the description. And it seems like if you have any projectile, you're going to be able to take out the dropship with ease. For me in this case, it was just a few rockets, as long as I could hit the target. All the while I'm doing this, the sentry is still causing damage to the base. I'm getting hit, the base is getting hit, and now we've gotten rid of the dropship. And I can focus more of my efforts now on the sentry, and I can see what I can do to minimize some of the destruction that's going on to my base. Again, I'm trying to think with new players in mind, especially ones that focus more on base building and less on gathering supplies. I noticed the area that the sentry was located at had a lot of open area, and I wanted to see if I can make it move from its current position. So far this entire time, it hasn't taken a step out of place, and the most I've been able to do to it is to get it to rotate. I think it's safe to say that these things are pinpointed on their current location, and you don't have to worry about them walking in close. Kind of gives me some ideas, which we're going to touch upon in a little bit. Now, at the time of making this video, it did have me an airplane loaded up with 2 RPKs attached to the front, and it looks like the Sentry was not having any of that. I did everything I could to get off the ground real quick before my airplane blew up with me inside of it, and we were actually able to get off the ground. I made a few trips around the base just to get a perimeter view of what my building looks like and what's remaining, and I also tried to take some shots on the Sentry while I was up here. It looks like I forgot to load up any kind of tracer ammo, so this is going to be really hard for me to pinpoint. And one thing I was kind of upset about is towards the end of this run here, I clipped my tail on an invisible boundary and it seemed to have blown up my airplane. I know I'm not imagining this thing. I've even slowed it down to take a look at. But let me know what you think. Was that bogus or what? This time when I respawned, there wasn't any floor left of my base. And when I respawned from the bed, I just kind of dropped and already had a broken leg from the experience. I was able to recollect my gear, but with a broken leg, I wasn't able to get far and eventually got pinned down, and I died. To try to save the base, I took my RPK and did what damage I could to the Sentry. I know this isn't even going to phase him in the long run, but I just wanted to see if I could distract him and get him off the base a little bit. The Sentry's doing an incredible amount of damage to the base at this point, and it's probably only been 15 minutes of gameplay, and I don't have much base left to talk about. But I tried to close the door and decided to cut the bush instead. That's what we need at a time like this. This time I figured if I got in the base, maybe I could trigger him to shoot some of his explosives. But that didn't happen. He was more worried about shooting bullets into the building. So I grabbed me a better point of view just to see where his focal points were. And I noticed he had a wide range of shots. It never really targeted one spot. So when you have a lot of building pieces together, the bullets were spraying all over different locations, slowly weakening the entire structure, so that when we had less base building elements left, the bullets that did hit were really taking out the weak structures, and things started falling fast. At this point in time, it seemed like every 20 to 30 seconds, I was losing another chunk of the building. We were in the final corner of the big structure, and base building elements were dropping like flies. Now, I don't know what made me think about it initially, but I thought, what if I could go ahead and build some more base building elements? Would the Sentry eventually target those base building elements too if it ran out of the others? And while I wanted to get really close to the Sentry, I noticed that my flag area was running really short. I was out of range, so I had to work within the amount of space that I had to work with. Started building floors, and I didn't want to get shot up, and I am using God mode for this situation right here. Built me a platform so that I can place me a wall, and I upgraded that wall to concrete just so I can stand behind it for this initial part. With a concrete wall up and in place, I was able to expand upon it, and what I didn't really realize was the Sentry was hell-bent on destroying the base elements that he already knew existed. Once I started placing new base building elements in its place, it seemed to cut off the Sentry's vision, and the Sentry wound up going into a neutral state. It no longer had the red highlights on its eyes, and I can see that it was pretty much defeated at this point. It was confused, it didn't know what was going on, and it had no idea how to react. I started moving in some more base building elements, and that's when, shockingly, the dropship showed back up, picked up the Sentry, and they decided to just roll out. Of course, naturally, I'm going to try to shoot this thing as it flies off into the sunset. But it seemed to not have taken any damage. It didn't smoke or catch fire or anything. And just taking a look at the destruction over about 30 minutes of time that had passed, there's not much left to my base here, as you can see. I tested this technique out a second time, and the same thing happened. During my second run, within a matter of 2 minutes, I was able to negate the Sentry's view, take out the dropship with the Desert Eagle, and be completely free and clear of any situation with the dropship. I may have only lost one section of the base, but with this technique, we can cut off the vision to the Sentries and not have to worry about things being an issue if we're low-level players. If you learned something, hit that like and subscribe button, or get out of here.